that. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we're going to recap the HBO Boxing After Dark card, which happened this past Saturday, which was May 24th? Something like that?
Yeah,
May 24th, which had Donaire-Vetyeka against Donaire-Vetyeka, and we also had Carl Froch versus George Groves.
31st.
Was it 31st?
31st. It was this past May.
Yep, it was. But y'all know what I'm talking about. That's when it happened. So let's talk about it. We're going to start off with Vetyeka Donaire, which had a little strange ending. Matter of fact, the whole fight was pretty strange. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, so Donaire was going to comeback trail, trying to get his, what's his fourth belt in the fourth division?
I think fifth.
Or fifth in the fifth division. And he was going up against a very tough fighter in Donaire-Vetyeka. Gotta love the nickname.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is a guy who was going to be kind of hard to hit, kind of an awkward style versus Donaire, more explosive style. The ending ended at the beginning of the fifth round, where Donaire was ahead on the scorecards as he had just scored a knockdown in the fourth round, the previous round, on a very good left hook, which had Vetyeka wobbled, but he just couldn't seem to take him out due to the cut that he got over his left eye in the first round, which to this moment is still debatable. They're saying it was from either a headbutt or an elbow, and it's the possibility that it could have been a punch. And it bothers Donaire so much that there were numerous timeouts taken for him to either get the cut under control, or for him to recover, or for the doctor to determine whether to stop the bout. Now, in order for there to be a technical decision, it has to go at the ending of the fourth round, or on some rules, the fifth round bell has to at least ring. And that's where it got weird, because out of all the chances and timeouts, I think the plan was just to get it to that fifth round or the end of the fourth round, so there could be a decision instead of Vetyeka keeping his belt with a no decision. And I think that's what they were trying to do, is get through the fourth round to the beginning of the fifth round at all costs.
Yeah, and that's actually like the dominant thought out there on the interwebs.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of articles where they're saying the same thing, like, hey, this was a little fishy. We know Donaire was the A side. We know he, had the backing of the promoter. And, I mean, it's possible. But for all those people to be involved with that, it's kind of far-fetched. To me, it just looked like they didn't know what they were doing. And they didn't know the rules, so they were just going to keep it going.
That's right.
But we talking about boxing here, so anything is possible.
That's right.
Now back to the fight. I think Vetyeka made a good showing for himself, because he was very awkward. He had Donaire very hesitant to throw his punches. You could see him really trying to get the rhythm down of Vetyeka, and he had a lot of problems doing it up until he got the knockdown, which at that point Vetyeka was kind of going to him and scoring. But what we talked about during the pre-fight video, Vetyeka keeping that right hand at his chest ended up being a detriment to him. I personally thought it was going to happen later on in the fight. We didn't get later on in the fight. So honestly, we were kind of robbed for everybody involved. The fight was turning out kind of interesting, but it was cut short. Both the fighters were really starting to get warmed up. They got their fight cut short. Donaire has a terrible cut over his eye. Vetyeka lost his belt. I mean, that was really the only reason we knew who he was in the first place.
That's right.
So hopefully they get a rematch and they can settle the score in a good way and not amidst a bunch of controversy. Let's move on to the main event that happened in London, England, between Carl Froch and George Groves in front of 80,000 people in a soccer stadium. I just gotta say that is freaking amazing. I mean, you can't get that here in the States. One, because of pay-per-view. Two, the sport's not as popular here in the States as it used to be.
Screw that. The British fans are freaking awesome. They go. They have come to Vegas. They have come to Atlantic City. So you know they was coming out of Wembley Stadium.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I was gonna say back in the day when Joe Louis and those guys were fighting, you would regularly have 100,000 people showing up to fights. I mean, that was 60, 70 years ago, but you know, that's neither here nor there.
We're talking modern day though.
Yeah, modern day, nothing tops those European fans, hands down. Those guys show up and they travel. Shout out to all you European fans. Now let's talk about the fight. What we were saying in the pre-fight breakdown was we were going to see the exact same fight with Froch ending matters a little more emphatically. We didn't get the exact same fight till about round 5.
Right.
But we did get the ending that we were thinking about. Go ahead, Rob.
Alright, so in our first video, we thought that Carl Froch would have learned from the last fight and would stop him late. But we were looking more around the 10th, 11th, 12th. You know, those championship rounds. Well, what we got was a blister at 8-round knockout by Froch on Groves, in which Froch threw a left hook, which, of course, Groves always has that right hand up and block. But we also pointed out that his left hand is always down low. And the worst thing that you can do when trying to counter a right hand or trying to follow up a left hook is to shoot a left hook from your waist. Because it's not going to get there faster than a straight right hand.
Never.
And he's disconnected Groves from whatever senses he had at that time.
Yeah.
But I think up to that point, I had to give the first few rounds to Groves because he was still boxing. He still had that jab going, but it didn't seem like he had quite the same success that he did in the first fight. Yeah. Froch was able to kind of nullify that basically step in, and as the fight wore on, you see Groves, I don't know if he was taking a chance or if he was tired or if Froch just took that step forward, but it seemed like he wasn't throwing the jab at Froch and get him at the full extent at the end of his jab. It was kind of like when he threw it, Froch was kind of on the inside, so he had to shorten it up a little bit. And that step forward kind of allowed Froch to get in there and work the body like he was doing as he came in the last fight.
Right. Another thing that really had the fight different from the first one was George Groves' pace slowed down dramatically. Like you could see in that first fight, he was a house on fire. I mean, he went out there and he took it right to Carl Froch from jump. This time he was a lot more patient. I think he was trying to conserve his energy a little bit, trying to make it to those late rounds. I think he knew, you know, the frenetic pace of the last fight, coupled with Carl Froch landing a lot of good body shots, wore him down. So he was trying to save himself for those later rounds so that wouldn't happen. Turned out he still got tired. And I think the reason why for that is what we talked about in our preview video and in the first fight recap of how he keeps his body hunched over like this. He's got his lungs all collapsed together. It's hard for him to breathe like that. You see, most other guys, Carl Froch had his chest open, everything was expanded. He has one of the best gas tanks in the business.
And he looked very comfortable and very calm going into this fight.
And Groves did not. Groves looked very nervous. He had that nervous energy going the entire time. You could tell he really wanted it. And if you looked at his muscles, he was really tense. You could see him flexing his muscles in there as the fight was going on. And doing that is going to stress you out faster. That's enough science for now. Froch really did a good job with his jab this time.
That's right.
The first fight, he really couldn't land it at all. He didn't land it too much this time, but he used it more so to set up positioning a lot better in this fight. He used it as a set piece. I almost pulled out one of those Teddy Atlas crazy analogies. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. He just used it to set his shots up a lot better in the second fight than he did in the first fight. And Groves' lower activity level really helped him out a lot as well. Now, I personally think if Froch would have went to the body like he did in the first fight early, he would have really gotten him out of there even earlier.
That's right.
But credit to George Groves, because he kind of hung back a little bit, it didn't allow Froch to get those body shots. He corrected something that Rob and I talked about in that last video, when he was throwing the right hand, would get squared up and just covered up right in front of Froch, allowing him to throw the body shots. We didn't see that until maybe like the 5th round when he started getting tired.
That's right.
So that's something, you know, he's going to work on. The guy's young. He's only 26 years old. The only person he's lost to is Carl Froch. I mean, the division's still pretty wide open for him. Froch is going to be gone soon.
That's right.
So he should not hang his head on that. He should keep his head high, stand tall as a champion, and hopefully learn from his mistakes and go on to maybe stake claim in that division after Andre Ward leaves. You got anything you want to add?
It's interesting to see where Froch will go from here. There's talks against him versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. There's talks against for him to go against James DeGale, who won in the undercard versus Brandon Gonzalez off another early but possibly justifiable stoppages. And of course, to rub a second fight versus Andre Ward, which seems that may be the last resort, because he wants a big Vegas fight, and the most lucrative fight will probably be Julio Cesar Chavez first, and then James DeGale again in Wembley Stadium. Also, if you've seen the footage, Vic Darchinyan got beat by Nicholas Walters.
Oh, he got beat bad.
From Jamaica. And of course, James DeGale lost to beat Brandon Gonzalez TKO in 4. Yes. Other than that, and also Sam King Solomon took out Felix Sturm in Australia. That was on ESPN3 as well.
Yep. So the first time Solomon beat him, he tested positive for a banned substance. Hopefully he doesn't do it this time. The victory sticks and he can move on to lose that belt to somebody else. That's it, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. The button's right down at the bottom where you're watching here. If you have subscribed, thank you. We'd like to thank you all who have subscribed. We've reached our first milestone of 500. So,
you're awesome.
Thank you. Tell your friends about us. Hit that share button. Share it on Facebook, Google+, whatever your social network is, you share it on there. Share this with your friends. Get them to subscribe. If you have anything you want to say, you can hit us up on Facebook. You can hit us up on Google+. You can use the comment section below. Either way, we will get back to you. Yeah, that's it, man.
That's all we got for you.
Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick ground, hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.